glad you could make it for our Friday edition of House Calls. On our Friday edition, we're going to be looking back at the past week at some of the things that may have been overshadowed by the pandemic. We'll be looking at news, sports, and some entertainment. So today we're going to start by looking at an event that may have escaped your notice. It's basically the pissing contest between Trump's friend, Russian Premier Vladimir Putin, and Trump's other friend, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Now, so what are these guys fighting over? Well, they're fighting over the price of oil. So this pissing match, this confrontation between Russia and the Saudis is going to have just a tremendous impact on our economy. Even a greater impact. It's worsening the impact from the global pandemic. And it's not a nice thing for the Saudis, who are our allies, and Russia to be doing it this time. But nonetheless, it's happening. So let me give you a little bit of the backstory. The Saudis can produce oil cheaper than anybody else in the world. You go to Saudi Arabia, you stick a straw in the ground, and out comes oil. They can produce a barrel of oil for about $6. On the other side of things, the United States can produce a barrel of oil using oil shale techniques, fracking, etc. They can produce a barrel of oil for about $40. They can make a profit with $40. It costs them about $35 a barrel to generate this oil for the most part. Now, back 25 years ago, the Saudis had kind of control. They could jack up the price of oil as high as they wanted to because global demand was so high, and they could jack it up as high as they wanted to. And as it got higher and higher and higher and reached over $100 a barrel, everybody and their cousin, Brazil, Canada, the United States, everybody and their cousin said, hey, we can produce oil. We can produce oil and make a profit at that. It may cost us more than it does the Saudis, but we can make money. So everybody did. And in that process, the United States became the greatest producer of oil in the world. But still remember, at $35, $40 a barrel. Now, Saudis find this intolerable. They want to make more money. They have more demand from their people to make more money. And so they're trying to get the cost of oil up. But to do that, they have to reduce supply. And they went forward and they said to Russia, hey, you're a big producer of oil. Why don't you cut back supply? And Russia said, hey, no way, we're going to do that. We're actually going to increase supply. And what happened now is the cost of oil began to plummet. Saudi said, well, fine. You want to do it that way? We can do it that way too. And they began to up their output. Now, this coupled with the pandemic means we're just awash in oil, and the prices have just absolutely plummeted. Now, as they plummet, guess what's going to happen to the U.S. oil shale industry? It's going to tank. And it's going to tank. And what happens is, once it tanks, it doesn't come back. It takes years. Once you shut a well, you just don't go next day and say, oh, the price is up again. Let's start pumping. Doesn't work that way. Once it goes down, it's over. It takes years to recover from that kind of thing. I'm sure Russia's just sitting there and Vladimir Putin is just sitting there delighted with this because what's happening now is this is going to have a real strain on the United States economy. So not only does he play a role now in screwing over the election, he also gets to screw over our economy. It must be a lot of fun for him. Well, anyhow, the United States got to do something. This idea that we're energy independent, which we've been talking about for 2 years now, that somehow the U.S. is energy independent because it's the biggest producer of oil, and it does produce something like 12 million barrels a day of oil. Of course, it still consumes 20 million, but nonetheless, it produces 12 million. That is the price stays low. We can't do it unless we subsidize it. So, hey, it's time to let go of this fiction that somehow we're energy independent. It's time to actually pursue energy independence. How are you going to pursue energy independence? Well, the way you're going to pursue energy independence is here's Congress talking about another $1 trillion or more infrastructure program. And so why don't we build infrastructure that actually makes us energy independent? And by that, I mean wind and solar and maybe nuclear. These are things that will really make us energy independent. It's time to start thinking about those. And this is one of the things I'm talking to you guys about, is that you're going to be the people who actually do that, who actually bring pressure on our congressmen to do that. So let's think that way. Write your congressman, say, hey, you're going to do another $1 trillion bailout package. Let's think about how we put it to good use. Now, turning to sports. With all sports across the globe having ground to a halt, the only real action for sports enthusiasts is the new sport of team pugilism, which seems to be a cross between cage fighting, no-holds-barred rugby, and Survivor.
But you've never seen Donald Trump fight like this.
Hey, look at this! Donald Trump!
It's Trump the Thumper.
Oh my God! The hostile takeover of Donald.
There are only 2 teams, but the action is mesmerizing and sure to keep us on the edge of our seat through the end in November, when we will discover which team is voted off the island. Team Alternative Facts is captained by 6'3", 245-pound Donald Trump, while Team Just the Facts is at the moment captained by diminutive Dr. Anthony Fauci. This week, Team Captain Trump anticipated an "I told you so" offense from Just the Facts and led with a vicious uppercut, saying, "This is something that just surprised the whole world. Who could have anticipated such a thing?" I have no idea how Team JTF, can respond to such a devastating blow. I guess we'll just have to stay tuned. In entertainment this week, I'm recommending a couple of good nonfiction reads over the weekend. At the top of my list is the 1995 book, The Coming Plague, Newly Emerging Diseases in a World Out of Balance. This is a long book, and if you want something a little more compact, you might try The Hot Zone, a terrifying true story about the emergence of Ebola and the potential for the emergence of new diseases. However, if you are looking for movies, I suggest Outbreak, which is now trending on Netflix. Outbreak, with Dustin Hoffman, relates the fictional story of a pandemic which jumps from monkeys to the human population. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can watch the better 2011 movie Contagion, Nothing Spreads Like Fear, tracing the spread of a respiratory pandemic originating in China that is carried to the U.S. by Gwyneth Paltrow, aka Iron Man's girlfriend, who dies a speedy death, sparking a nationwide lockdown. Of course, if classics are more your style, I recommend the 1971 sci-fi thriller The Andromeda Strain, or the book by the same name, in which the government activates a pre-established plan to combat a deadly biological infection. You know, honestly, I have no idea where people come up with this stuff. Well, that's it for this week's Friday House Calls. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on Monday for our regular feature. See you then. Have a good and safe weekend. Bye.